Okay, third time's a charm. G'day all, welcome to another video. Before we get started, I want to mention that I covered a song, Neapolitan Dreams by Lisa Mitchell with a friend, and if you want to have a listen to that, go over to the music channel. I'll put a link in the video description. It's a sweet song, if you've not heard it. Sweet song. What do I keep? Alright, but today's video we're talking about for loops. So loops in programming are used whenever we've got to execute some block of code multiple times and we don't want to type out the code over and over again. Possibly the most common loop is the for loop, and another couple of loops. Python would be the while loop and the do while, but we'll have a look at those some other time. So the syntax for a for loop, it starts with the for keyword and we follow that with a variable name, whatever we want to iterate with. We'll see all of this in action in just a minute. Then the in keyword, and then we call a function range, and range has a start and a finish. And what's going to happen is the block of code, which is whatever's tabbed across one space from the for, that block of code is going to repeat over and over again, and the variable is going to count from start to finish each time the block iterates. Okay, for loops count up to a certain value. This is a strange little point, but they count up to a certain value. They don't count the value. It's a little bit weird, but computers usually start counting from 0 instead of 1. So if we tell a computer to count up to 10, it kind of goes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then it stops. That's common to a lot of languages, and it's also the way that we address elements in arrays and things. So most of the stuff that programming languages do, they do with a based 0 counting, which can be a little bit awkward. Alright, but here we go. So I've got Visual Studio going here with Python. If you want to install Python, I think at the moment I recommend using Visual Studio Community 2013. If you just go New and then Project, you'll see Python down here as one of the project options, and you can click over here to install the Python tools. And once it's installed, then you can click on New Python application, and you've got yourself Visual Studio debugging and Python. So that's very cool. Or you can just keep using Programmer's Notepad. Okay, but let's have a bit of a demo. So for I in range 0 to 10, print stri. Okay, so this line just here is going to execute 10 times, and each time it executes, this little I variable just here is going to count up, all the way from 0 up to, but not including 10. So if we just hit F5 and have a bit of a run, we should be able to see this in action. Yeah, there we go, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, good stuff. So if you wanted to count like a human, then you would put a 1 here, you would tell it to start at 1, and you would tell it to count up to 11. Yeah, same thing. That's rare in programming. You don't usually do that. You just go from 0 to 10. Do ya? Okay, so this is a shorthand method of counting up to a certain value from 0. If you just supply one parameter to range, then it means from 0 up to that number. So if you just put a 100 there, it's going to count from 0 up to 100. Yeah, just like that. So that is exactly the same as that. Yeah, same thing. Just a little shorthand. In previous versions of Python, this is version 2, we had this Xrange, which used to iterate through a for loop without actually creating the numbers in RAM. And nowadays, in version 3, that's what range does. So it used to be, in version 2, when you used range, that function range, it would create a list somewhere in RAM with all of the numbers in it. But that's, that's a big waste of RAM, and it's really slow. So nowadays, there's no list created in RAM or anything. Range does what Xrange used to do, and if you're porting old code, you can swap all of the Xrange calls to range in Python 3. Good stuff. Okay, stepping. This is another interesting point. You can use the step parameter. This is the third parameter in the range call, and that means what to add to the variable each iteration. So if you want to count up in 2s, you would just put a 2 there. If you want to count backwards, you put a -1 there, and you swap these two operands around. All right, let's have a bit of a demo. Okay, so let's say that we want to count from 0 all the way up to 100, and we want to count in 5s. You would just supply a third parameter there, 5s. And what you'll see is that each iteration through the for loop, it adds 5 instead of adding 1. Yeah, so that's quite cool. All right, but if you want to count backwards, then you want to start from, say, 100, and you want to end up at, say, 0, and you want to count backwards, so we'll put a -1 there. So this is going to go 100, then 99, 98, 97, all the way down to, but not including 0. So it should stop at 1. Yeah, there we go. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Do remember, though, when you're counting backwards, you have to swap the start and end parameters. So many times I've accidentally put the 0 here and the 100 here and expected it to count backwards from 0 and get to positive 100. I mean, it's got a long way to go. Infinity, actually. Okay, nested for loops. This is interesting too. So you can put a for loop inside the body of another for loop. Let's have a bit of a crack. Let's go for y in range. I'll say 0 to 5. And for x in range 0 to 3 will go. Print coord. I'll just print out coord as if it's a coordinate. strx plus and stry. Stop putting semicolons everywhere, you naughty C++ programmer. Okay, so right here we've got a nested for loop. This for loop here is inside the body of this for loop. And what it means is that every time the y variable increments, the entire x loop will run. Yeah, so 15 times we're going to call this function just here, 3 times 5. Let's just run it and we'll see what happens. Okay, so you see over the side here, this x variable, strx, is counting 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2. It's counting from 0 up to, but not including 3, every time the y variable increments. So when the y variable is 0, the inner loop runs 3 times. When the y variable is 1, the inner loop runs 3 times. When it's 2, it runs 3 times. When it's 3, it runs 3 times. And finally, when it's 4, it runs 3 times. So every time the y loop increments, the entire x loop runs again. That's a nested for loop. Good stuff. That's really helpful for iterating through multi-dimensional arrays and yeah, a bunch of other things. Quite cool. Nested for loops. All right, but the Fizzbuzz challenge. Okay, so this is the challenge. Have a go at this if you've never done it before. It's worth doing. Fizzbuzz is a children's maths game, but it's also a problem designed to assess if programmers have sufficient skills to warrant further interviews, etc. I don't know if people actually use this in interviews, but yeah, it's a good way to demonstrate if you actually know what you're talking about as a programmer, or if you have, you know, zero clue what's going on. What I want you to do for the Fizzbuzz is write out the integers from, well, don't write them out, get the program to write them out, you know, get the program to print them to the screen. The integers from 1 to 100 inclusive, except for any integer divisible by 3 is to be replaced by the word fizz, any integer divisible by 5 is to be replaced by the word buzz, and any integer that's divisible by 3 and 5 is to be replaced by the words Fizzbuzz. Okay, that's the challenge. Have a go, because I'm going to answer it in just a minute, so you might want to pause the video. Here's the hint. Page down. Okay, the hint is if you want to tell if something's divisible by something else, you use mod, modulus. If x mod y equals 0, then x is divisible by y. Oh, well, that's the end then, so I'll just, all right, this is how I would answer Fizzbuzz. I hope you had a go. I'd go for I equals, I wouldn't. I'd start out with the words for I, and then I'd say in range 0 to 101. We've got to be inclusive here. Actually, it's from 1 to 101. Yeah, we don't want it to stop at 99. We want it to go up to and including 100, so we better tell it 1 extra. If I mod 15 equals 0, then we better print Fizzbuzz. Yeah, and elif I mod 3 equals 0, then print fizz. Get rid of your semicolons. Elif I mod 5 equals 0, then print buzz. There's a million ways to solve this. There's a million. Well, maybe not a million. Yeah, maybe a million. What's it whinging about? Nothing. It's over it. else print stri. Yeah, there you go. That's how I'd solve it. Yeah, let's just give it a bit of a run and see what happens. Fizzbuzz. Good stuff. Good program. 1, 2, Fizz. 4, Buzz. Fizz, 7, 8. Fizzbuzz, 11. Fizz, 13, 14. Fizzbuzz. That's so amusing. Yeah, so that's how I would solve the Fizzbuzz question in Python, using a little for loop. And that's just about all I wanted to say on for loops. So there is actually a lot more to them. You've also got iterating through strings, arrays, iterating using floats, and defining your own iterators. But we can have a look at some of those advanced topics a bit later. And for now, thank you very much for watching. So we've got Facebook and Patreon and a music channel, and go and have a listen to Neapolitan Dreams if you like. Yeah, thanks for watching. See ya.